Hey there, practice of the practice community. Are you ready to take your private practice to the next level? Then mark your calendars for September 16th through 19th, 2024, because Level Up Week is back and bigger than ever. Insert rocket emoji here. Join us for 4 days of live webinars, interactive panels, and exclusive resources tailored just for counselors, therapists, and private practice owners. Whether you're looking to fill your caseload, hire your first clinician, or scale your group practice, we've got you covered. This is your chance to level up while others give up. Don't miss out on this game-changing event. Register now at practiceofthepractice.com/level up and get ready to transform your practice. Remember, September 16th through 19th, Level Up Week, your ticket to practice success. Register today and let's level up together. practiceofthepractice.com/level up. This is the Practice of the Practice podcast with Joe Sanok, session number 1068. I'm Joe Sanok, your host, and welcome to the Practice of the Practice podcast. I am so excited to be hanging out with you today. I want to just tell you a little story about AI that happened this past weekend. My partner Claire and I, and this is going to freak some of you out, this application of using AI, but I won't even justify it. I'll just tell you what happened. So we are on like the upgraded version of ChatGPT, and I said, I want you to think like a Gottman certified therapist for this exercise. And I said to it, like, first I want to test you. So what are the four horsemen? That's something the Gottmans teach. What's the ratio of positive to negative? It should have answered 5-1. What's the aftermath of the fight? Give me that summary. So all these things that, I was trained in as a Gottman level 2 therapist. And so I wanted to first make sure that it was thinking like I wanted it to think. And I said, now I want you to interview Claire and I want you to interview me with at least 5 questions about what we envision the future to be. And then I want you to design 5 activities for us to do this evening for us to connect with each other. So I interviewed Claire, 5 questions. She's like sitting over there while I'm having my glass of wine. And she's like, oh, wow, that's a tough one. And saying all these things. I'm not sure about this. And I'm like, wow, like what are these questions going to be? Then I go through them and it's really big, kind of heavy questions about like our future and like, what do we want? And, having to evaluate a lot of things. And then afterwards, it gave us 5 activities to walk through talking where it saw differences, where it saw similarities, where it saw opportunities. And at the end of it, we were like, that was insane. I think there's 2 tendencies I see, and there's probably more than 2. There's probably millions, of different tendencies. But there's therapists that feel very challenged by is AI going to take the therapy world and we're never going to have therapists again? And there's other ones like myself that are excited by it and a little fearful. I think we're all a little fearful of it. But just that idea of being able to develop tools that enhance therapy. Because if we really could say, why are we therapists? One reason probably is we want to better the world. We want to better human development. And if we have a tool that is bettering human development, then why wouldn't we use that with our clients? Why wouldn't we use that with ourselves? Why wouldn't we test it? That is why I'm so excited to have Terence Mauri with me today. Terence is an expert in this area and more. He's a founder, author, speaker. He's one of the world's leading experts and keynote speakers on leadership, AI, and disruption. He inspires and motivates teams to thrive in ever-changing contexts. Thinkers 50 described him as an influential and outspoken thinker of the future of leadership. Terence, welcome to the Practice of Practice podcast.
Hey, Joe, great to join you.
Yeah, I am so excited to talk about this. When I have my schedule, my team is reaching out to people, finding people they think would be a good fit. And it's like opening a present on Christmas morning where it's like, who's going to be on my schedule today? I don't usually do much research. And this morning I'm like, oh, AI, disruption, leadership. I love these things. So what a fun way to start my morning. So we're talking leadership in a post-AI world. First, probably by the time this goes live, it'll almost be outdated in some ways with the speed of AI. But tell me, for those that maybe haven't kept up with AI, haven't kept up with the disruption that's happening right now, let's frame that out before we talk about the post-AI leadership world. Like what's happened in the last year or two in regards to AI and that disruption?
Thank you, Joe. Well, it's a real roller coaster. Over the last few years, everything changed. People changed, priorities changed, the way we work changed. Even my 7-year-old niece changed. I call her my CTO, not Chief Technology Officer, Child Technology Officer.
Mm,
So the question for our listeners today is, do we watch the world change around us? Or will we be the ones driving this change, owning the change, and turning the change into a tailwind for laser-like focus? And I loved what you said at the beginning about AI. AI is a game changer. To change the game, we have to make game-changing moves. And I think AI used in the right way, in a hyper-relevant way, can do more than just augment what we can do. It can be a superpower. Imagine speed to insight, speed to anomaly, speed to innovation. But as the therapist Esther Perel says, we should also be careful of artificial idiocy. Notice there I played a
mm,
word on the AI, artificial idiocy or artificial intimacy or artificial interactions. So leadership in the post AI world is really addressing this question. How do we maximize what makes us more human in a responsible, ethical, inclusive way?
mm. I love that. When you think about artificial idiocy, what are tendencies or things that you're seeing out there that is just perpetuating that idiocy?
So a big example is an organization I worked with recently, and they rushed to market like a chat bot. But straight away, it started swearing and cursing and really damaging relationships with the customers and reputational damage as well. And there's always a risk that we're suffering a collective sense of FOMO, fear of missing out right now. And the result of that is it can mean at an individual level or a group level, we rush without experimenting intelligently. And so we
Mm,
have to be careful of rushing to using these tools without doing the right type of experimentation first. And that's what it means. It means taking an iterative approach, an open approach, adopting this beginner's mindset of deep curiosity and sparring with AI. What I mean by that is using it as not just a co-pilot, but a co-thinker or a co-creator, understanding its upsides, but also understanding its limitations and constraints.
yeah, it reminds me of maybe in a different way when you enter a new social media platform. So it's like, I was considering having a TikTok channel. At this point, we haven't chosen to do that, but for probably 6 months, I was on TikTok just playing with
Mm,
it, being like, what do I enjoy here? How do I make sure it curates things that I want to see? Like, what's kind of the algorithm? How's that
yes.
working? And just kind of playing with it. Same sort of thing with AI. Have taken a different approach. Initially it was like, oh,
Mm,
how can this help me do blog research, or how can this help me do some like keynote research, or just almost like a virtual assistant. But
yes.
my daughter and I took her on a daddy-daughter vacation when they turned 13. We get to do these
Yeah.
fun vacations, and so every evening we were playing with AI, but we had it act as a charades host, and we taught it
Yeah.
to pull from Disney movies for that a 9-year-old and a 45-year-old would know. We created obscurity level. So if we wanted really obscure
Yes.
characters from this, it was like a 10. If we wanted somewhere in the middle, it's like a 4 or 5. And every night
Mm.
we played charades, and it would give us these characters and descriptions of each character and what movie they were from. So it was like the most robust charades game, but we were just having fun. We were just learning it. We were just like, like you're saying, like sparring with it. What are
And
things that you've
yes,
done to just be able to get to know the capabilities of AI?
I think, the word fun is a big one. Don't underestimate the power of play. Most of our curiosity is squeezed out of us like a lemon by the time we finish college or university. I've been playing with a great AI tool called Bunch AI. It's based in Germany, and Bunch AI is basically your own AI leadership coach. We'd all love to have a coach or a mentor, but it's not, not everybody has. And so Bunch AI is a great tool where it curates a coaching plan for you based on your strengths, based on the blind spots that you're blind to as well. And you get those actionable coaching conversations. Another great example is I recently met a young lady called Emma Yang. She's about 19 years of age, and she was playing with AI. During that time, she received some terrible news. Her grandmother had been diagnosed with dementia. In fact, every 7 minutes, somebody on the planet, somebody that we love, is diagnosed with this terrible affliction. And Emma Yang, being an analytical person, an experimenter, a learner, not a doer, she decided to experiment with AI, but with a bold intentionality, which was, how can I use AI to help my grandmother stay reconnected to her memories? And fast forward about 18 months, she's created an app which everybody could check out. It's called Timeless. And the purpose of the app is to utilize geotagging, facial recognition, algorithms to help people with dementia stay reconnected to their memories of who they are and their families. She's just received over $1 million worth of investment. So when people say to me, this is the age of disruption, I reply, I disagree. This is the age of wonder. It's the age of possibility. And the only constraint is your imagination.
The age of wonder. I love that. Having not quite little kids anymore, 9 and 13, but still like the eyes they see the world through is just such wonder. And, just that idea of how do we foster that more? How do you
Exactly.
think that this new world, how does that intersect with leadership?
Look, we're at an inflection point. We've been trapped for too long in industrial age thinking. And what I mean by that is, more bureaucratic work than intelligent work, more checking than coaching, more transactional thinking than transformational thinking. And I think we're at this pivotal inflection point where actually we have an opportunity to do work that makes us feel more human, that gives us a stronger sense of who we are and purpose and belonging and impact. And so that's the inflection point that we're at. And what that means is we're going through a number of different mindset shifts. And one of the biggest is to scale what I call curiosity over conformity. Here's the research. So my research at Hat Future Lab shows that 2 out of 3 organizations say that they have cultures of conformity, not cultures of curiosity. And a culture of conformity rejects ideas that challenge the status quo. A culture of curiosity embraces ideas that challenge the status quo. And it's a source code for future readiness. And so leadership in a post AI world is about being open to new ways of thinking, but also having the humility to unlearn and let go of some of the always done ways or the broken ways, old ways of working, old ways of thinking that have gone off like yogurt in the fridge.
I love that. It's very similar. We talk about kind of that post-industrialist world, where Henry Ford in 1926 started the 40-hour work week, and how we're 2 generations into the 40-hour work week, and Thursday is the new Friday. I really challenge that idea that we have to just work 40 hours. And you look at what the
Yes.
industrialists valued. They valued a Model T kicking out at the end of an assembly line, that you plug it in and you get predictable results. And you view people that way, you view relationships that way, that everything can be figured out, and that it's more of a prescription. Whereas it
Yes.
feels like this new world, to me, the metaphor of it's a menu. We're going to see if we like this appetizer. We're going to see if this works with our business. We're going to try these things. We're going to plan, do, check, adjust, like we learn in lean manufacturing. And then we're going to try to iterate it to find what's best for us, what's best for our company, because none of us feel like our employees are just, you plug them in and then you get an output. That idea that the 40 hours sitting in a chair is the best KPI for your business, like that was all thrown out the
It's
window with
crazy.
the pandemic.
It's
and, and
yes.
now we get to ask different questions. Now we get to say, okay, like, let's be curious here. Like, what could we do as a
Yes.
business? How can we shift? Like, where, even like, what do I not like anymore? I mean, I remember when
Yes.
I was one of the only like 30-something-year-old male therapists in town, but I was sick of doing therapy, after school hours, every evening. And it's like, okay, this has shifted for me and I need to adjust that. I can't just be a machine that gets plugged in. What a good
I mean,
leader. Oh, go
yes.
ahead. Yeah. No, you jump in.
Yes, I mean, it reminds me of an experience that happened in my own life where, first half of my career, I had it all mapped out in a very linear way, a very mechanical way. And then I suffered a life-changing accident. A car driver mounted a curb, drove into a shop. It was a terrible accident. A number of people got hit. I got woke up under the car, the burning smell of a tire on my legs. I was in hospital for a number of months and I made a full recovery. But you know, Joe, sometimes when you're out of the building, out of the office, when you have time and space to stew and to think at a deeper level, not a shallow level, you get to reconnect with your true core, your true identity. And I realized that I could no longer live a kind of linear career working in advertising, that actually I needed to create some space to step into the unknown and trust the wisdom of uncertainty. And I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today if I hadn't had that opportunity. And so, as Mike Tyson, the great philosopher, said, you have the greatest plans in the world until you get punched in the mouth. And so one of my
Mm,
calls to action and calls to reflection is we always regret the inaction more than action. And so a big call to action is get started before you're ready. Get started before you're ready. Don't allow perfectionism to stop you from even getting started. Because if you overthink, by the way, you'll find 100 reasons not to do anything.
yes. Something always comes up when you're running a private practice. Well, Gusto's payroll and HR services can make it a little easier. Gusto was designed for you, the small business owner. They take the pain out of running a business, automatically calculating paychecks, filing payroll taxes, setting up open enrollment. Gusto does it all. Want more? Time tracking, health insurance, 401k, onboarding, commuter benefits, offer letters, access to HR experts. You get the idea. With Gusto, you can focus on the joy of running your business. It's super easy to set up and get started. And if you're moving from another provider, Gusto can transfer all the data for you. It's no surprise 99% of businesses said the value they get for Gusto is worth the price. And here's the best part. Because you're a listener, you get 3 months totally free. All you have to do is go to gusto.com/Joe. Again, that's gusto.com/Joe. I'm telling you, you're going to love Gusto. Get started today. I'm a big proponent of slowing down to have our good ideas. What is that when you work with top leaders, when you're coaching, keynoting, doing, all these different ways that you support leaders? What does this practically look like for them to lead differently in this changing world?
It starts with intentionality and focus. And there are different types of focus. Research coming out of Hat Future Lab shows that over 76% of leaders at all levels, big companies, small, non-for-profit, profit, they spend most of their time on shallow work, shallow focus, so low value, low impact, at the expense of deep focus and deep work, high value, high impact. And that's a real problem. And so intentionality is absolutely key. And what I mean by that is a reductionist mindset. We're drowning in data, drowning in information, drowning in emails. On average now, we're handling over 30,000 emails a year. And the biggest mistake anyone can make right now is to try and keep up with technology. We have Paleolithic brains, medieval institutions, godlike technology. And so we have to do things differently. And so what I'm doing with leaders is really scaling up this kind of reductionist mindset. And what I mean by that is once a quarter, going Marie Kondo on your work. What do I need to declutter? What do I need to detox? What do I need to delete? Subtraction is one of the finest forms of optimization because what it gives you is new energy, new perspective, new cognitive bandwidth. The Nobel laureate Simon Herbert said, too much information leads to a poverty of attention. And attention is one of the rarest and purest forms of generosity you can give to yourself, to your family, and to others right now. So practicing a reductionist mindset, eliminating, subtracting, letting go is an absolute essential to avoid drowning in a sea of information, infomania.
Yeah, I love that idea of what does this bring me joy? I've done that in my house several times.
Yes.
And even just looking at the t-shirts you acquire over time, it's like, I don't like half these. Why am I just hauling these around?
Exactly.
When you're doing that to your business, what are some practical examples of things that people might say, oh, I need to edit this out?
So I worked with one of the world's leading luxury companies recently. And like most companies across every sector, every vertical, They're drowning in too many meetings, too many emails, too many ways of working that no longer work. For example, we have best practices that have become broken practices, yet we still protect them. We have 1 in 3 meetings, which is perceived to be a complete waste of time, and yet we still do it. At City Hall in San Francisco, it takes an average of 252 days to set up a first interview. If you go into Starbucks, there's over 100,000 different configurations of coffee. We're drowning in complexity. And so with this particular client, they invested energy once a quarter in a very democratized way. And I think that's a key point, making it a co-creative approach, involving everybody so that everybody had a chance to kind of identify within a 24-hour time limit some of the top sources of frustration, of BMI, not body mass index, bureaucratic misery index. 3 letters I want our listeners to remember for the rest of their lives. And the average BMI score, by the way, is too high. That means excess bureaucracy, excess complexity. And that becomes a tax on speed, on agility, on future readiness. So with this particular client, they really invest in a deliberate way on a quarterly basis, time to intelligently, in the moment, in a fully present way, identify the biggest sources of BMI, bureaucratic misery, and then to find cheap ways of eliminating it. For example, what do we need to simplify? What do we need to delete? What do we need to automate or augment? Or indeed, what do we need to optimize? And what that does is empower people. There's too much fake empowerment in the world. And this is a great example of elimination, reductionism, but also empowerment at the human level.
Yeah, yeah. I know that like when I think about Parkinson's law, that work expands to the time given is the part that people
So
usually know.
true.
But the other side of Parkinson's law is the natural bloating of organizations. And he looked at the
Yes.
British Army, or no, the British Navy. He did this big evaluation on them and found that basically anytime any sign off was added to anything, it was near impossible to pull it back out because people assumed that, hey, you had to sign off to get permission from your superior for fill in the blank, whatever it is. It must be important. We can't pull that back out. So there's this natural bloating of organizations over time. And unless we rein it in and say, we're going to give ourselves less time, we're going to edit aggressively, we're going to intentionally ask ourselves, why are we doing this?
Yes.
We just get
Yes.
more and more bloated and slower, and we can't respond, and the communication channels get
Yes.
bloated. And so it's one of those things that it's just like, um, good leaders that
It's,
can start to
yes.
streamline things and to encourage the team to notice those things that need to be cut. That's so hard to teach a team
Exactly.
sometimes.
It could be as simple as having a simplification week across the company, where in that week it's all about simplification and really getting people fully aware and in the moment about what do we need to eliminate, simplify, let go of. And that's why in my book, The Upside of Disruption, I also speak at length about unlearning, because every organization and every person wants to be agile, except only about 23% are. And the reason for that is we're bloated, we're drowning in that information and that data in those meetings. In fact, there's that productivity paradox or the solo computer paradox, which is this counterintuitive observation that the more investment we make in information, in technology, the productivity actually goes down. And that comes across in the surveys as well. So Microsoft released a big global productivity survey. Over 100,000 people replied to it, and over 66% of respondents said they don't have enough time in the day to do their day job.
Man, that's crazy. They don't have enough time in the day to do their day job.
Exactly. Which is, I mean, so this is why, linking it back to what therapist Esther Perel said. I'm a tech optimist for sure, but the way we use the tools and looking at them as tools is going to be critical in the next chapter of our human evolution. We have to avoid the artificial idiocy of applying the same paradigms that we've applied in the 20th century and the 19th century, in fact, across the whole millennia, that actually this is a Cambrian moment for reimagination. When you think about it, everything starts as an active imagination, a company, an idea. But to sustain vitality for the long term, we need to practice deliberate reimagination. That's a curiosity to learn, but also the courage to unlearn.
Mm. Now, if you were to like aggressively imagine what businesses and humans could be in the next, say, 20 years, what do you envision? What are you moving toward? What are you hoping businesses and leaders kind of push?
Well, I think an exciting idea is this idea of an AI exoskeleton. So imagine that you've got 24-hour intuitive access to AI that actually it's invisible. I think any good technology that's working should actually be invisible, that we shouldn't be aware of it. And having access to that in a really intuitive way where actually we don't know anymore. I mean, for some people listening, that's going to be scary, potentially dystopian. But again, if I think this is a potential scenario where if it's done in an ethical way, in the right way, actually we will unlock human superpowers, what I call ROI, not return on investment. We know that's important, but a new human metric for a post AI world. Are you ready? Return on intelligence, return on ideas, return on imagination, a world where you're cognitively enabled, but also enabled at the soul level, a deeper, more humanistic level, and where there are no constraints on your imagination. AI is an enabler of that. And that's what excites me in the next 10 or 20 years. We'll be able to use this to solve the energy crisis, climate risk, diseases, and the list goes on.
Mm. Yeah, I mean it's insane to think about. Um, Terrence, if every private practice owner in the world were listening right now, what would you want them to know?
The number one takeaway would be we always overestimate the risk of trying something new. So thinking about your audience and your listeners, we always overestimate the risk of trying something new, a new way of working. For example, am I thinking of working or experimenting with AI or trying a new way of operating or trying to move from transactional work to more transformational work or transactional interactions in my week to transformational? So we always overestimate the risk of trying something new, but we always underestimate the risk of standing still.
Mm, I love it. So if people want to connect with you, if they want to follow your work, if they want to get your book or books, where should we send them?
So first port of call would be Terence Mauri at LinkedIn. Is a great, I think, a great shortcut in terms of becoming part of the community, sharing ideas, tapping into collective intelligence, collective ideas. This cross pollination of perspectives is absolutely key. I think in terms of being future ready. So LinkedIn, Terence Mauri, or my website, terencemauri.com. In terms of the book, The Upside of Disruption, it's coming out on September the 4th. Amazon, Barnes and Noble would be two great shortcuts. And my final call to action today would be, to use the great words of Ted Lasso, stay humble, stay teachable.
So awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the Practice of the Practice podcast today.
Thank you, Joe. It's been a pleasure.
Well, my big takeaway is to return back to really just editing the business, looking at what's working, looking at what's bloating. It reinforced a lot of things that I've thought or taught for a long time. That idea of slowing down. Even recently, I went on vacation with my daughter, as I had said earlier in the episode, and every morning we had fruit, and I drank my coffee outside, and I read for a little bit. And I've continued that for the week I've been back from vacation. And that's been something that it's like, let's just see how my energy is if I have fruit in the morning and I have coffee and I start my morning a little bit slower than I used to. And that experimentation, that wonder, that curiosity, I hope that for you. I hope you get curious about your practice. I hope you get curious about what you could do beyond your practice. That dementia app example with AI is amazing. Like, how cool to think about something going on in your own family member's life and then being able to come up with a solution to help them restore and recall memories. There's these things that we see in the world as therapists that we say, that's not how the world should be. And this is a time that we could actually start to move the needle in healthier ways, and we need your leadership. Also, when it comes to leadership, there is the side of it that sometimes isn't that fun, and that's sometimes your HR stuff. All of the money, the calculating of paychecks, payrolls, can be a pain in the butt. We use Gusto. We love Gusto. A bunch of our clients use Gusto. 99% of businesses say they value that the value they get from Gusto is totally worth the price. So head on over to gusto.com/Joe to get started today. You're going to get 3 months totally free over there. That's gusto.com/Joe. Thank you so much for letting me into your ears and into your brain. Have an amazing day. I'll talk to you soon. Special thanks to the band Silence is Sexy for that intro music, and this podcast is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information in regard to the subject matter covered. It is given with the understanding that neither the host, the producers, the publishers, or guests are rendering legal, accounting, clinical, or other professional information. If you want a professional, you should find one.